Hello everyone, I'm Drunvalo Melchizedek, and I'm here today to talk about spirituality and food. This question has come up to me over the years, on and on, over and over again. People want to know how food affects spirituality, and it really does. I've seen over many years in my own body and in other people's bodies how it does. I teach meditation, and I teach ascension and higher consciousness. And I can see that when someone is not paying attention to their food or to their yoga and exercise, that they have problems, and these problems will stop them from being able to go into higher levels of consciousness. And so I'm asking you to be careful about this and begin to think about your food and what goes into your body. And basically, my whole life has been an experiment over this. In the very beginning of my life, I was living a normal American life. I ate meat, I ate food just like everybody else. But by the time I was about 23, I made the choice a long time ago to become a vegetarian. And I began to explore food. I then went deeper and first began a vegetarian and only ate that. It took many years to understand what it means to be vegetarian, because most people that I see today that are trying to become vegetarians really don't understand what that means and what it entails, and are probably doing a lot of harm to themselves because they don't really understand how food interacts inside the body. And then, so I went for about 30-something years of being a vegetarian and doing about an hour and 15 minutes of yoga every day and about an hour of meditation every day. And this was my regimen that I did for a very long time. And then I got married. And the person that I married was not a vegetarian. She was the cook. And I decided to not be vegetarian anymore and to see where that led. What I've discovered now, which is something that I think that maybe might be able to help you, is this experiment of being vegetarian for 30 years and then 15 years of not being a vegetarian. I've been able to use my own body to discover what happened to me. For one thing, I began to gain a lot of weight. And I actually went over 200 pounds. It was amazing to me. I couldn't believe it. I sat on the scale one day, I looked down and saw I was over 200 pounds. I freaked out, which anybody would. And I then began to lose this weight, which I did. I lost it all. I lost about 40 pounds and brought myself back into normal weight. But what I've learned about this is what I would like to share with you. Food combining is one of the primary understandings of all this to begin with. The foods that you eat with other foods is essential for your health. You can't just eat anything. You can't just throw anything in there and think that it's going to be fine. It's not going to be fine. Let's understand the science behind why it's not going to be fine. Every single food on earth has an enzyme specifically for that food that is required for that food to be digested. And every single enzyme has a specific pH in your stomach that is required for that enzyme to function. And so what happens is if you eat, say, some meat and potatoes, and those two things actually do function together. The reason we've got into that is because potatoes has meat has a poison in it, and the antidote to that poison is in potatoes. This is why the world has started connecting those two things together. But if you then eat a slice of grapefruit, well, grapefruit has an entirely different pH in the stomach. What happens is the grapefruit will take over because it's a higher pH, and only the grapefruit will be digested. The rest of that meat and potatoes goes into your intestines and rots in your intestines. It does not digest, and it is really not good for you. And many people are running around all the time having their food not digested inside of their intestines. There are many other, not only is it the pH important, but if you're trying to actually get protein and you're a vegetarian, you have to understand what things have protein. The reason in Mexico and throughout South America they eat beans and rice together all the time is because beans has part of the protein, rice has the other part of that protein, and when they're eaten at the same time, you get a full protein. But if you only eat beans, you don't get it, and if you only eat rice, you don't get it. In other words, it takes knowledge in order to eat properly in this world the way we are now. Very little thought for most people is put into what foods you put in your stomach. If you put an orange in your stomach and then you put a potato in your stomach, what difference does it make? It really does. It makes a huge difference, and it makes a difference on how you perceive the reality even. Food, we were designed, our bodies were designed from prehistoric times to eat only one food at a time. We moved around the forest, we got one little food, we ate that, maybe an hour later we'd eat something else, but in our stomach was only one thing. And so this is something that we really need to understand of how foods, what foods you eat, what foods you don't eat with other foods. The idea of drinking orange juice and coffee, which people do every morning, is deadly to your body. It is not good for you. And this in turn will affect your ability to function on spiritual levels. You may not think this is true, but I really invite you to understand deeper the nature of this. The other thing is exercise and yoga. And yoga is also a huge key to being able to reach into higher levels of consciousness. There was a reason why the monks in Tibet and India and the Sufis in various places all came to the same conclusion that if you want to get into higher consciousness, you have to use yoga in your body. Otherwise, your body will degenerate and you won't be able to reach those higher states of consciousness. And so the combination of the foods you eat and the exercise and the movements that you make in your body are really crucial if you're interested in spiritual work. And so take the time, begin to study what this means, and understand it. If you're serious about your spiritual work, you have to know what food you're eating and what yoga you are doing. It is important. I really hope this little piece of advice helps you, and take the time, study this. You'll understand what I mean, and it'll really help your spiritual work. Thank you very, very much.